Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. This episode of NXT was the fallout from NXT TakeOver The End. And I gotta say, a fun episode of NXT this week. I think we got the right amount of storyline progression, some really solid matches, and all around a very well-rounded episode of NXT. But I'm curious what you think, partner. Did you enjoy tonight's episode?
It was all right. I mean, it was, I wasn't too excited about it. I know you seemed to be pretty high on it. I thought it was just kind of, it was there. I don't feel like we really got that much out of this, actually. We'll talk about it then. I don't have any major issues with the show, but I just feel like it kind of spun its wheels a little bit.
Hey, man, that's fair enough. That's why there are two of us here instead of one. So, with that said, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And as you can imagine, I really have no heat to the night. I thought this NXT was productive for the hour that it had, and no complaints. Nothing really irritated me on this show. What about you, Ashton?
I have a full-blown heat of the night.
Wow, very curious. All right, man, the floor's yours.
Just to kind of, dampen the load a little bit. It's not necessarily something that only affected tonight, but it's something that I noticed probably the most tonight.
Okay, have at it.
It's a two-parter that kind of both fit into the same segment. Can you guess? Specifically which segment it has to do with?
The Blake and Murphy segment?
No.
Okay, I give up.
The main event match.
Oh.
Dillinger Almas.
Okay. What are we thinking?
Well, this is based almost exclusively on crowd reaction.
Right.
These guys are playing the wrong roles. That's all it comes down to. Ty Dillinger, even earlier on in the night when we had our Cathy Kelley interview with Andrade, Dillinger showed up and cut a heel promo. So he's still supposed to be heel. He's being told to be heel, and he's trying to go along with that. But he's just too charismatic, man. This Ty Dillinger situation on NXT feels not necessarily on the point that it feels the exact same, but it feels similar to the Seth Rollins situation on the main roster. And we complain about that, so I have to complain about this too.
Hey, man, I appreciate the consistency, and you know something? You're not even wrong in my eyes, because I was even going to throw to you later in the show, and I guess I could do it now. I mean, you already really answered it, whether or not you felt like Andrade should be heel, because I think he should be heel.
Well, that was the second part of my two-part Heat of the Night.
Right.
Andrade is charismatic, but is not... How do I describe this? There's more than one type of charisma, right?
Right.
And I feel like the type of charisma that Almas has falls more in line with the heel than a face.
And I agree with you.
Because he kind of has like an arrogant charisma rather than like that humble charisma you want from like your Sami Zayn, your Daniel Bryan, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, there's no dissent here between you and myself, because I even said from the tone of the vignettes that it just had a heel tone to me. Now, maybe that's just me, but then I felt like you go from those vignettes, which seemed very serious, kind of build into something, and then he comes out, and nothing wrong with, like, the attire or whatever, but it seemed almost too much of a contrast from the tone of the vignettes. And just from the word go, I'm like, he's good. I enjoy what he does between the ropes, but there's something missing here. And honestly, dude, if you want my honest assessment, I like Andrade. I want to like Andrade more than I do currently, but I really do think with him, he's the male equivalent of Alexa Bliss. It's just that situation where she came in, she wore babyface, and I never bought it. I see Andrade work face, and I guess he pulls it off a little bit more than Alexa because he's got that Lucha Libre kind of vibe going on, but I still don't buy it. Maybe it's also because he was the leader of Los Ingobernables, and maybe I've just got kind of that perception. But yeah, there's just something about it that's inauthentic to me. And you want to talk about Ty Dillinger, a guy that's so over, you got this crowd chanting 10, 10, 10, has the gimmick down to a science, and has a t-shirt that if I'm willing to bet is probably selling like hotcakes. I mean, maybe that's hyperbole. Maybe we could get actual numbers on that. But I could imagine it's probably a really big merchandise mover as far as NXT goes. Yeah, these guys are totally playing the wrong roles.
Well, that's my heat of the night. That's the problem that I had, the big problem that I had with this show.
Yeah, it was a problem that you and I were in complete agreement with. And again, I was going to field it to you as a question for, towards the end of the show, and we just addressed it right here. So with that said,
I feel like I had a nitpick.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what it was, though.
Did it have to do with the Authors of Pain?
No, I didn't have a problem with them. I didn't have a problem with Carmella versus Tessa. Okay, maybe I didn't have a nitpick, but I thought I did. We'll probably get to it, and I'll probably remember when we're talking about it.
Okay, yeah, you know what, dude? You can just, if I'm in the midst of, and I think Blake and you're like, John, I remember my nitpick. Okay, oh my god, mother of God, what is it? And then we can just do it. Yeah. So, yeah, it seems good. With that said, though, let us get right into...
Oh, I remember!
And there we go, have at it.
We cut to commercial in the middle of a match. What is this, Raw?
Yeah, I don't... Oh, that's right, that was also Andrade and Dillinger, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that one match, man, just all the problems. Oh man, yeah, that is kind of a bummer, but I really wish they'd get their timing better. That is one thing that Lucha Underground does consistently well. Even tonight with 6 to Survive, the pacing was perfection because they did commercials after an elimination, so you knew you weren't going to miss anything significant. I don't know, man, it doesn't seem to be that complicated.
Yeah.
With that said, though, and for real this time, let us get into our NXT review, and we open up with just a quick little, tribute Orlando. We stand with Orlando given the recent shooting. And then as far as NXT content goes, we have a really nice video package highlighting all the major points of TakeOver the End with the End is Near kind of soundtrack that WWE has used for pay-per-views like Armageddon and such. So I thought that was really well done. And then when we get to the actual show, Ashton, how do we open this baby up? Wasn't it with the Authors of Pain, or no?
Yeah. Did you already talked about the fact that we recapped the end like crazy?
Yes.
Yeah, the Authors of Pain came out and they squashed their opponents, who literally their name was their opponents because that's the only way the commentary ever referred to them.
Exactly. And, I liked what they did. Don't get me wrong. I'll be interested to see when they face more competent composition like American Alpha, the same guys that they jumped at the end to, make their initial impact. I think the coolest moment of the match, honestly, in my opinion, was when they took the one guy, because, again, the only name they got was their opponents, tossed him into the corner, I guess with such force, so he bumped into his partner, which counted as a legal tag. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
and then they mauled the other guy. Yeah. So they just beat him down. They do the boot to the head, spinning sidewalk slam on the one, then the side Russian leg sweep and the clothesline on the other, and that's the definitive kind of finisher. They get the pin, and Paul Ellering doesn't make any kind of animated movements, doesn't make a sound, just walks out with the guys. So, I mean, Ashton, I'm guessing a match like this was too insubstantive to kind of gauge, where you're at now with these guys, but has your opinion changed at all on the Authors of Pain, besides Matanza ripoffs, which we knew that was your sentiment at the End live reactions?
Believe it or not, all of my notes about this match are positive.
Oh, awesome.
I'm going to just read it verbatim.
Okay.
It's match 1, Authors of Pain versus their opponents, 615 combined pounds, which is huge. And then I have, goddamn, these guys are intimidating. Great theme too. Love the entrance. Love the atmosphere.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I like the packaging so far. I like what they can do, and these are guys. I guess even against more competent opponents, again, like American Alpha, these guys shouldn't be putting on 15, 20-minute clinics. They should just go in, destroy, do their thing, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the only bad thing that I can say about these guys is that we've seen this before with the Wyatt family when they were in the NXT.
Right.
It's all the same stuff. Like, even the Wyatt family used to do that thing where they would throw one guy into the other guy for the tag and drag the other guy in. That's something the Wyatt family did when they were around.
See, now, I don't recollect that from the Wyatt family, but I don't doubt that you're wrong. Just, I can't personally recollect it, so this came off as new to me, which is, I guess, why I popped for it. But yeah, I think this.
I mean, that's like, yeah, if it's the first time you've seen something, or in your case, if it feels like the first time you've seen something, it's definitely, yeah, like that was an awesome moment if it's the first time, or you feel like it was the first time you've seen it, but it has been done before in NXT.
Yeah, it's like that Family Guy joke with Charles Manson behind bars. If I haven't seen it, it's new to me. I just know it's so good. But yeah, I mean, everything's right, I think, about this gimmick in terms of packaging and presentation. I just think it comes back to the same question that I honestly had about the likes of Nia Jax. How much mileage can you get out of it? And I'm going to be very intrigued to find that out. So yeah, very quick work of these guys. Not much you can say. I mean, Ashton, is there anything you want to add outside of your notes or anything?
Well, I mean, you did say something that I want to talk about. You said you don't know how much mileage we're going to get out of these two, and I had the same question about Rusev, and he ended up being pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, if these guys look like burnouts to people, they could shock us in the next few months and really be something special, because I think...
And my questions about Rusev didn't even have to do with his ability or his talent. It was just the gimmick itself, I thought, felt like a gimmick with a short shelf life.
Right, and you even said that on record on TWitWows, you know, that you just felt like, oh, it's just another foreign gimmick of, like, this big imposing force. Like, how long does that last? Because I think you even said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a gimmick like Rusev, you thought, okay, we build them up, we get them real quick into the world title picture, and then they fade out. Yep. It's just like you have that burst in the world title picture, and then you fade into obscurity almost.
Exactly.
And Rusev has managed, even with working with the likes of, you know, Titus O'Neil currently, to remain, to me, very entertaining, very relevant, and a guy that I actually think, and I've said this multiple times, is underrated. Could we be having a similar conversation about the Authors of Pain? Only time will tell, but I mean, you got a guy like Paul Ellering, who I think Corey Graves did a great job really emphasizing how important he is and who he is, and putting over these guys is just monstrosities manifested in human form. So, yeah, great stuff. Anything you want to add?
Not to this, but I do want to just kind of throw out there, I've been looking at WWE Shop's best sellers section for the last, 5 minutes or so, and Dillinger's shirt is nowhere to be found.
Oh, wow, that's actually surprising to me. But
I even did a Control F to try and find, just maybe I missed it, and the text is somewhere that I didn't see, and I typed in TYE, and nothing.
Wow, well, you know what? I stand corrected, guys, so I redact my previous statement. I guess it's not really a mover currently, and because I feel like it's been out a while, so it probably won't be, so my apologies, but that's why we have the fact checker here, so thanks, partner. And with that said, we can move on. Now, didn't we get the quick backstage segment with the Authors of Pain and Paul Ellering after this, before our next formal matchup, where they were walking in the back?
No, actually, after the match, we got a Cathy Kelley interview with Andrade.
Oh, wow, okay, Andrade came before that. Yeah, and he was pretty much talking about how TakeOver the End, it was such a great night, and this and that, and he's really looking to make an impact, but then Ty Dillinger interrupts, and I love how he calls Cathy Kelley a 6. It's like, don't you give him all this credit, you 6. And he more or less accuses Andrade, like, that was a fluke, you know, I want a rematch, and I know in the rematch I can show you that, you can't compare to the perfect 10. So, yeah, I mean, Dillinger's mic work, I think, is still on point. Again, I love the barb towards Cathy Kelley, who we all know is much higher than a 6. And, yeah, I just agree with your initial musings in the Heat of the Night segment. These guys just need to switch roles. Is there anything you want to say about this segment?
No, but now what we do get is Andrea Dimarco trying to get a word from the Authors of Pain, but they ignore her. So she asks Paul Ellering what they're doing here. And all he says is, in due time.
I really like this.
So did I. This was awesome.
Yeah, I think when you have a gimmick like this, and when you're a manager that really has the credibility of Paul Ellering, you want to keep your cards close to your chest, you want to be succinct, you want to let the actions in the ring do all the talking, and, they've got that down. Even with him, in their stead kind of guiding them, that's what I think really gets me excited, because, what's that going to turn into? So, yeah, anything you want to say about this?
No, man, I thought that this was really cool. Like, I think that the best word that I can use to describe these guys is atmosphere, because when they show up, everything feels like it changes. Like, the feeling of NXT changes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as tonight goes, I would certainly agree with you. I hope that's a sentiment that you and I can continue to echo as it relates to segments involving the Authors of Pain. So we will see. But with that said, let's move on.
Honestly, I think, aside from the third match that we got, which was the tag match, I thought the Authors of Pain were pretty much the best part of this show, not counting the main event.
Yeah.
And by the main event, I'm specifically the segment, not the match.
Yeah, the segment was great. I really did.
Segment, the main event talking segment, I mean.
Right. Yeah, Authors of Pain were great. I have to say, like, I really enjoyed TM61 versus Blake and Murphy, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But
like, if I were to make a list of my favorite moments tonight, number one would probably be the main event talking segment, like I said. 2 would be the tag match, TM61 versus Blake and Murphy. And 3 would just be, in general, the Authors of Pain. They've just been, they're interesting. It's new. That's a big thing with NXT, is they're bringing in something new. It's funny because NXT has an hour a week, and it feels like we see the same people every week, whereas Lucha Underground has an hour a week, and it feels like we only see any given person once a month.
Right. Yeah, total reversal of fortunes there when you look at how everything's presented. And yeah, Authors of Pain, definitely, they made a good impression tonight. So what came after this in due time kind of talking segment here?
It was Carmella versus Tessa Blanchard.
Okay, now I want to ask you, because I definitely have my thoughts about this. What did you think of Tessa Blanchard in this match?
She needs to be a heel, because I think the last time we saw her match was against Bliss, right?
That's correct.
And she was working face, and that was when we were very unimpressed with her. But tonight, I thought she was much better.
And see, I completely agree with you, and I'm so glad you started out of the gate with she needs to be heel, because that's the exact same sentiment I came away from this match with, because her just having, that cocky grin and mocking Carmella's catchphrase, oh, how you doing, and trying to work the crowd, like, if you give her the time, if you build her up like you do so many NXT acts, I think she could really come into her own as a heel and really be somebody worth watching. Because, yeah, the babyface, it felt awkward. And again, a word I like to use a lot when I just don't buy somebody is inauthentic. Inauthentic would be another word. But heel, she just seemed comfortable in there. Yeah. That's the big word. She seemed comfortable in there. And, yeah, I thought it was a fun match. But Carmella ultimately wins with the Bronco Buster, followed up by her submission, which she's now calling the Code of Silence.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff here, but Carmella rolls on.
You skipped a step. She did the Bronco Buster, then she does the Flatliner.
Oh, see, I thought the Flatliner and the submission were all the Code of Silence, but I guess it's probably just the submission. So, yeah, I stand corrected.
Oh, so, you know what? You might be right. I might be wrong on that. I don't know for sure.
But regardless, I mean, it's cool that she's got a name for it now. Carmella continues to build steam. I gotta ask you this, too. See, I thought my question about Tessa Blanchard would be my only question to you. Do you think we could ever get to the point where we could buy Carmella as the one to end Asuka's championship reign? Because I do believe they want to make...
Hell no.
Yeah, I figured. Because, like, part of me believes, right, that NXT wants to make Carmella a future NXT Women's Champion. I just don't know when that would be, because Asuka just seems so unstoppable right now.
And by the way, just to kind of throw it back for what it's worth, I Googled Carmella, and I'm on her Wikipedia page, and Code of Silence is just the figure 4 head scissors.
Then I stand corrected. Then it was the Bronco Buster, then just the Face Buster, then the Code of Silence is purely the submission hold.
Yeah. No, I don't see Carmella as a near future NXT Women's Champion, which probably means she's never going to be one, because if I had to guess, she's probably getting called up during the brand split.
Enzo and Cass syndrome. Be there all this time, never win a championship. It's quite fitting that it's her, too.
Yeah, it's very fitting.
And it's funny, though, because I threw out Carmella as a potential contender, but the problem, and this is just my opinion, and I know it may seem disparate to the rest of the show, given that she wasn't even on it, but I almost feel like Asuka, for me personally, is developing what I would coin the Finn Balor problem. Of course, Joe ended up being the solution, where she's racked up so much credibility in such a time. I can't conceive of anybody really beating her in the near future, or maybe even in the distant future. I could really see her having a run with that belt, and I'm just wondering.
I don't think anyone's going to beat her, honestly. I think she's going to end up getting called up with the belt and probably have to drop it, and they have a tournament to crown a new one.
Oh, so you think she's going to pull a Paige?
I think it's possible. I mean, I can't, in all reality, I can't imagine her losing it to anyone on the roster right now. So I mean, unless they would maybe Santana Garrett with a few months of proper build.
Maybe.
That's one person, but even her, I don't even know if she's part of the roster yet. I don't think they've signed her officially.
I could only see it if you really built up one person and really put in the time and the effort, or in the calamity of a multi-woman match, maybe somebody pins somebody else.
Maybe Athena.
Hey, Athena, I've been so stoked on her. I would love Athena, now Ember Moon, versus Asuka for the NXT Women's Championship. But as much as I love her, dude, again, Asuka's still they even noted that on commentary when recapping the NXT Women's Championship match. Asuka's still undefeated.
Here's a name people are going to hate.
Okay.
Eva Marie.
Honestly?
Cheating her way into it.
And that's just it. If you would book Eva Marie beating Asuka the way you booked Eva Marie almost beating Bayley, that would get such heat.
Yeah. That's the only reason that I brought her name up in the first place. I can't stand her. I think she sucks. Just kind of trying to retain as much credibility as I can here. But yeah, because my thought process there was basically, well, I can't imagine anyone beating Asuka legitimately. So who can be believable to cheat to beat her? And I thought Bliss, but she's never really cheated to win a match before. Who else is left? Eva.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, as much as people may hate me now for saying it, I think Eva winning, to kind of expound upon your point, works on multiple levels, because one, you work your way around the Asuka conundrum of just so much credibility. How do we believably take the title off
Eva
her?
Marie could be the female Bo Dallas.
She really could be. And here's the thing about that. She would win the belt, and then whichever babyface, whether it would be Ember Moon, because I assume she's going to come in as babyface, Carmella, what have you, if they would take it off of her, that pop would be enormous.
And there's all the believability in the world to someone beating Eva because it's Eva.
Exactly. So it works on so many levels. It'd almost be criminal not to go that route, honestly, when you think about the potential long-term gains for, just short-term suffering of, oh my god, Eva won a match, and it wasn't just any match, it was the match against Asuka. I know that probably pains so many people, but when you think about what we could gain from it, reap from it long-term in terms of solidifying female baby faces and stuff like that, it may be a profitable investment to consider. So, yeah, I'm glad we had this little chat, because I look at Carmella picking up this steam. Tessa Blanchard, I think, could really come into her own as a heel. But Asuka's such a credible and dominant champion. How do you move the division forward? Do you have the tournament and she pulls a page and she vacates it? Or do you give somebody that rub, as a heel, presumably, of, yeah, I cheated Asuka, I cheated all of you, suck it, and just have your run? So, good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We haven't had a really good actual heel women's champion in NXT ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Sasha tried to fill that role, but she was so good that fans...
she was so beloved even before she won the title.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, though, is that, Sasha's the closest thing we've ever had to a legitimate heel champion, and the only reason that I can say that is because she was technically heel.
Exactly.
On paper, she was a heel, but in execution, she was a tweener, borderline babyface.
Yeah, she was really, when you look at all those extraneous circumstances, she was really only a heel in name only.
Exactly.
And my thing is, and I could just see it, dude, because Asuka, this well-versed, globally seasoned kind of grappler, losing to a reality TV star. It would piss so many people off, but that's exactly why it works.
Right, and plus, like we kind of have been saying, it's not like she would get, Eva would wrestle her and get the 1, 2, 3 or anything. She would cheat. She'd pull a Bo Dallas. She'd do a freaking drop toe hold onto Asuka into an exposed turnbuckle and then roll her up for the 3 count.
Exactly.
That's how Bo beat Big E. Big E at one time was in a place really similar to where we are with Asuka now, where it just felt like this guy is beating everyone, and he's not only beating them, but he's beating them for 5 seconds instead of 3. How the hell do you get the title off of him? Enter Bo Dallas.
Exactly. So yeah, dude, you may have cracked the Asuka conundrum there with putting forward Eva Marie. I'm going to be very interested to see if NXT
unless they just randomly sign Jessica Havoc out of nowhere and make her a heel.
That could be. I mean,
because that is the only other woman with the size and believability, unless they bring Karma back, which probably isn't happening.
Right.
that could take on Asuka and be credible.
Hey, look, man, my biggest fascination after a point with Finn Balor's title reign was simply who was going to end it. And that's where I could really see myself in a few months with Asuka's championship reign. Hell, I mean, based on this discussion, it's already kind of there now, but I'm still enjoying the ride. But I know sooner or later it's going to come to a point where, like, yeah, Asuka's really good, but what's the next phase of all this? So, yeah, but I mean, Carmella for the moment gets the win with the Code of Silence. Tessa Blanchard seemed far more comfortable as a heel, so a very productive matchup all around. Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. Let's move on. Up next was a Samoa Joe promo. Basically talking to the entire NXT roster, it kind of felt like,
Yeah, it's funny because this seemed like a slightly edited version from the version of this promo that's on WWE's YouTube channel, which I really liked that because he really seemed like he had just come off the exhaustion of having the match and whatever. And he's like, I guarantee you don't have enough to sacrifice. And he just looks at the belt. This version wasn't bad with a little bit of doctoring that they did. I think they added a few words here and there that really weren't meaningful or anything, but you could just tell it was edited if you saw the original one. And yeah, just the whole theme was sacrifice. I destroyed my brother. I hunted a demon around the world just to get this NXT championship. And while I put an end to the question of whether or not I could beat Finn Balor, it's the start of my era as NXT champion. And of course, again, he said, I guarantee you don't have enough to sacrifice, which I love that ending line. I'm loving heel Joe. I feel like his promos have really been on point. And I'm just enjoying the title reign now that we've finally gotten here and we've really solidified it now. So,
yeah, man. I'm looking forward to see who they put him up against next. It's just looking like it's probably going to end up being Nakamura, oddly enough.
it is looking like it's going to be Nakamura, but here's the thing, though, right? If Nakamura is doing at Brooklyn 2, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2, what, really seems like he's going to be doing given the main event talking segment, that opens up, things for Joe. So who is Joe going to be looking at for Brooklyn is my question. So.
No, from what I understand, though, Balor Nakamura is going to be happening before that pay-per-view.
Oh, really? So it's just going to be happening on an episode of NXT then?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That'll be like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that.
All right. Fair enough. Well, then, yeah, then it's back on the table. Definitely Nakamura. So there you go. All right. Anything else you want to say about the Samoa Joe promo?
Up next, we had a Cathy Kelley interview with Blake and Murphy. They have reconciled. Blake kind of shifts the blame for their breakup onto Alexa Bliss.
Yes, in which there is mutual agreement there. I disagree. I thought she was wonderful for that team, but to each their own, I suppose. And they seem like they're going to be, a united front against TM61. So, anything you want to say about this promo?
No, not really.
All right, let's move on.
I did like Murphy calling TM61 those Aussies, knowing that he is one as well.
Yeah, that was good. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, but that's about it. Up next was this match, TM61 versus Blake and Murphy. And this was really a match that didn't last too long. It pretty much told a simple story, that being Blake and Murphy aren't on the same page anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and as in, like, do you feel like it was a right move or a necessary move by NXT to really illustrate that to us? Or, like, I guess they really wanted to tell us in no uncertain terms, like, very explicitly, like, yeah, they've dissolved, or...
It's such a WWE move, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel
like a team breaks up. A team breaks up. This is PCB all over again. A team breaks up backstage, and then they act like, oh, it's all good. Everyone has fights. And then they end up having someone turn on each other again after they've so-called reconciled. Like, yeah, this feels like PCB again.
Yeah. Can I say, too, as far as moments of the match are concerned, I mean, TM61 are really growing on me, which is great because the NXT Tag Team Division, that would make 3 teams that I'm really loving right now, American Alpha, The Revival, and now TM61. Nick Miller has a sick spine buster. I saw that AA spine buster he did, people. You knew I wouldn't forget. It was a thing of beauty. Absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, so let's do this.
Yeah.
Nick Miller, Scott Dawson, Adam Rose. Who has the best spinebuster?
You know what? Scott Dawson, I'd have to place in third. That's honestly not too much of a quandary for me. Adam Rose and Nick Miller is where the debate starts getting heated. Because Adam Rose had a freaking gorgeous spinebuster. Honestly, I think I'd still have to say Adam Rose. Nick
Yeah.
Miller's was so good, though. Like, I really don't want to cheapen it. Like, I just really want to get over how much I loved it. But yeah, Adam Rose, I think, is still king. Question for you, Ashton. Actually, two questions. They're distinct from one another, though, so I'll go with the first one, and then I'll post to you the second one. One, what do you think of TM61's double team finisher?
I love it.
Nice. I felt the same way. I thought it was great. It's definitely different, and I think that's going to be a move that, crowds will begin to anticipate and really pop for when it's executed. Now for the more, I guess, discussion-based question, if you want to call it that. We know explicitly now that Blake and Murphy are done with. How do we handle this going forward? Like, do we just keep
I'll tell
Murphy?
you how. I'll tell
Okay.
you exactly how. Murphy
Okay.
singles push.
I agree with you, right? And that's not
Babyface.
babyface, you think? Interesting.
Have them feud. Murphy babyface, Blake heel. Blake might even win the feud, but Murphy will win the war because he will get the babyface push that everyone wants him to get. And by everyone, I mean me.
Well, that's the only thing that matters. No, not really. We all love you. But no, it's funny you say that because I don't even contend necessarily what you're saying, but like I think what I was driving more at is what's the gimmick? What's the packaging? Like how do we handle it? Because for me,
Blake can go back to his cowboy gimmick, right?
I mean, I guess.
Cowboy Wesley Blake, remember?
Yeah.
Buddy Murphy becomes a sympathetic, badass babyface with fire, because that's what he is.
Yeah, I just think for me, if I was handling it...
Do you know who Murphy is?
Who?
Arn frickin' Anderson. That's who Murphy is.
And we've been saying that. I just think for me, in terms of how you handle it, I would have Murphy off NXT TV for a few weeks. Then maybe I'd have him reemerge with like some kind of promo. Maybe he had off time to think, get himself together, and then he cuts this promo. If we're going the babyface route, with this babyface fire of, these guys left me, but I'm going to show them, I'm going to show everyone that I can make it on my own until I am, have him have those grand ambitions of NXT championship or whatever. Then maybe he debuts. I really wouldn't want it to be against Ty Dillinger because I really still have hopes for him of being like a really white-hot babyface. So I got to think of somebody. Maybe it would be against Blake, and they would just settle their stuff straight away and start having the program. I definitely see a bigger upside in Buddy Murphy. I think Wesley Blake, I think I even said this on a past episode of TWitWoW, he's that kind of solid hand that could work a match for like a fresher, newer babyface and do the quality heel work that I think needs to be done. That's honestly as far as I see Wesley Blake going. Buddy Murphy... it's kind of a question mark, but in a good way, because I could
like
see
I said, I think that Murphy as a babyface, his first feud should be with Blake. They should have a feud,
right?
And
right.
and he shouldn't even necessarily be a babyface in that feud. We should establish him as a babyface throughout the feud. We should have Blake. We should have Blake do the dirty antics. We should have Blake cheat. We should have Blake, win most of the matches early on. Maybe we do like a best out of 3 where Blake wins the first 2 and then Murphy finally gets his win on the third one.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying there. That could definitely work. I just wanted to poke your brain about Blake and Murphy and what the future may hold. TM61, they're hoping that their future holds the NXT Tag Team Championships, and with a win like that, they've certainly taken another step in the right direction. Really fun match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If there are any other remarks you want to make, we can move on.
Okay, let's move on. Up next, we had a Revival promo, very similar to Joe's earlier. Basically just saying that they did what they said they'd do.
Exactly. We are 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions, and what we said we were going to beat American Alpha, and we did it, and they ended it with a championship clank. So, again, as I said, I think at TakeOver the End live reactions when the victory occurred, Gargano and Ciampa definitely has to be at the forefront now because they got a win over the Revival on the NXT go-home show, if you will, before TakeOver the End. So, yeah, I'm thinking that may be a match either for NXT TV or for Brooklyn, one or the other. So we'll see.
Yeah, I really hope that happens at Brooklyn, man.
Oh, I hope it happens in Brooklyn and they get a...
Did you see Brooklyn is already sold out?
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Crazy that they already sold out. But yeah, I agree with you. The Revival versus Gargano and Ciampa, you give that match 15-20 minutes at Brooklyn, tear the fucking house down. So, yeah, I got my fingers crossed for those guys.
Yep. All right. Well, up next, Andrea Dimarco has an interview with Bayley. Kind of a weird thing here for Bayley to say. Apparently, she's got a doctor's appointment next week to see if she's ready to return to action or not.
Yeah, I think she said, like, the doctor's appointment was tomorrow, and they'll probably have the results next week.
Okay. So we're seeing Bayley next week, basically.
Probably. Yeah, just to keep everybody updated on the leg and everything. Very succinct promo, just really more
Honestly,
of,
I
hey,
didn't even think she was legitimately injured. Wasn't this a work injury?
It was a work injury, so I'm thinking, like, yeah, they'll just get those quote-unquote results processed in enough time for her to be on NXT next week to give the announcement. And then you watch. I bet you they're going to have Nia Jax come out, interrupt, out of frustration, want to take it out on Bayley, and we get Bayley Nia Jax 3. Bayley wins. That gives her the momentum for Brooklyn. So, I mean, you kind of color that as my prediction if you want, but that's really how I see it going down.
Probably.
All right, I guess we can move on.
Dillinger, Almas.
Fun match. I'm almost tempted to say that I felt like it was. Well, actually, no. You know what? I won't say this was better than Takeover the End because I really like some of the stuff they did at Takeover the End that I didn't.
I thought Takeover the End was a lot better than this. Like a lot better than this. Like Takeover the End was like an 8 out of 10. This was like a 6.
Yeah, and it's funny because it involves the perfect 10. So.
Well, and it was made worse by the freaking commercial in the middle of the match. Like I hate that.
Yeah, definitely broke up the flow.
I mean, at least Lucha Underground, when they're forced to have commercials during matches, because usually they don't, but on nights like tonight, where they have one match for the entire show and they're forced to have commercials during the match, it happens right after an elimination, so we don't lose any momentum.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, seriously, we've been kind of stressing to you, get a notepad, get a functioning pen, and just take those notes, because, I mean, times like this would be incredibly helpful. Almas wins with the double knees in the corner of the face. I mean, clearly he's a Taya fan, not that I can blame him. I mean, man certainly has great taste. And Andrade, yeah, he wins. He's 2-0 right now, both against Ty Dillinger. We'll see what he does next, but I gotta be honest, like, I'm enthused in one way, but again, it's an Alexa Bliss problem for me. I just don't buy it as a babyface. I'm glad that you said right at the start of the show, really with Heat of the Night, our first segment, that you feel like you should be heel too. And maybe he'll turn soon, but I'm not optimistic at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to move on already?
Yeah, we can.
All right. Finn Balor gets in the ring, talks about his journey to NXT, and then since he's been in NXT, he talks about that stuff too. And he asks, "What's next for Finn Balor?" And then we have a pause, and it's What's next for Finn Balor? And then I think this was around the time that the crowd started chanting Balor Club, Balor Club, and he goes, "Too sweet," and the crowd exploded for that. But he kind of works his way around to saying again for a third time, "What's next for Finn Balor?" And then we get Nakamura's music.
Yeah, he was kind of like musing out loud, like, "What's next for me?" And Shinsuke's music was all like, "Mind if I cut in?"
Yeah, it was like a combination of two things. First of all, Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Say it 3 times and he shall appear. But second of all, it also was kind of like those like improv comedy sketches where someone's like, "I'm saying this thing now," and it's supposed to be like the cue for somebody to come out, and they don't do it right away, and then on the third time they come out, that's like what this was too.
Right. So yeah, great heartfelt promo from Balor, talking about, his first time watching NXT. He saw Enzo and Cass, and just that energy, like he knew he had to be here, and he's so proud of everything he's accomplished and all that good stuff. And yeah, like you said, the Too Sweet crowd exploded for that. Then Shinsuke comes out, and they both do their mutual poses, like, to, just as like respect, like, I know you, you know me kind of thing. And I love the crowd for this because they're already starting to ship, I guess, match-wise with Finsuke chants. That was great.
Oh, wow, I didn't even catch that.
Oh, I did. That's the stuff of fan fiction, brother. It's gonna flood the internet anytime now.
God, are they in the OTP?
Probably. For a lot of people, yes.
Now,
I will say yes. Yeah. So, Shinsuke then, after they do their little pose downs, the crowd chanting, "This is awesome," because two really imposing, legitimate forces are interacting. Shinsuke says, "Look, you may no longer be NXT champion, but you're still an icon. And for me to be champion, I must beat the icon." And crowd just pops for that big time because they know what this means. And then Finn says, well, Shinsuke, you just answered my question. What's next for Finn Balor? Shinsuke Nakamura. And I believe they did a handshake, and that image is how we more or less end the show. So we know that Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura, according to your research, for 3 weeks' time on an episode of NXT, probably because they want to do Nakamura Joe for TakeOver Brooklyn 2, is on the horizon here.
Yeah. You know, I gotta say, I was a little bit, like, I don't know if I would say cringe, but I rolled my eyes when we got a match of the year chant before the guys even started wrestling.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I can understand that, but I commend the crowd for being, like, so excited. That would be a really cool moment for them, for seeing those two guys, Nakamura and Balor, in the same ring. And,
well, I
yeah.
mean, it's exciting, but we've also, it's happened before. This match happened in New Japan, for God's sake, and it was nowhere close to a match of the year.
Well, maybe NXT can top it. I doubt it, but maybe. You know, they're just excited. And yeah, did they jump the gun? Absolutely. But I think they're just losing their goddamn minds because it's like, oh my god. And maybe these guys don't even watch New Japan. That's the thing, too. I mean, I'd be curious how many people in Full Sail actually watch New Japan.
John, I'm becoming a wrestling hipster.
It happens to the best of us, my friend. I guess just embrace it as best as you can. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the mic work of both guys. I mean, not that there's really anything to really dissect and open up. It was just a good segment, set a great tone for the future. And yeah, great imagery just with the handshake and everything. So I was a fan of this segment, sure.
All right.
All right, with that said, let's get into our next segment, high spots and low shots. My low shot is Blake and Murphy. You tried getting back together, and it was a horrible idea for everyone involved. Learn from it and be better from it, I guess. But yeah, you guys had an awful night, and it was bad, and you should feel bad. So there you go. They're my low shot.
Yeah, they're done, aren't they?
Yeah, they're done all right. Absolutely.
All right, I think my low shot's Ty Dillinger, as much as I hate to do it.
Oh, are you gonna be okay?
I'm gonna give an honorary low shot to their opponents tonight, because not only did we not find out what their names were, but they got destroyed by the Authors of Pain.
They have no identity. Oh man, are you gonna be okay though? Saying Ty Dillinger is your low shot?
I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're gonna have a hugging session later. But regardless, my high spot. Let me see here. You know what? I guess my high spot is gonna be Finn Balor, because he got what he wanted. He got a direction for his future. It was up in the air, and it got answered for him all in the same segment. I mean, most people bite their nails down to the bone wondering, oh God, what's the future hold for me? Finn Balor, that was very resolute for him. So yeah, he's having a pretty good night.
I guess he is, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like, oh man, I've never had this uncertainty before. I'm just so used to being NXT champion and just looking forward to title defenses. What do I do? And then Shinsuke is me and he's like, oh, well, that certainly works. So who's your high spot?
You know, I think I'm going to have to make my high spot the Authors of Pain, just because I dug what they did tonight. They dominated, and damn, Paul Ellering's awesome.
Yeah, he is. I'm digging it. That's a good choice.
You know who he kind of reminds me of a little bit?
Who's that?
The psychologist in Until Dawn.
Yeah. Definitely a different kind of reference, but I'm picking up what you're laying down. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Actually, I think he's technically a psychiatrist, because I'm pretty sure he prescribed medicine, so that makes him a psychiatrist.
Right. Any concluding remarks about NXT?
I just want more. Give me more. Give me more new, specifically. The Authors of Pain were good tonight. Give me more new.
Yeah, like, you know, maybe Billy Kay and Peyton Royce being featured. Because they've been gone for so long, it would feel like new.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Ember Rose, right?
Oh my god, yes, dude. I'm so stoked on her. I can't wait for the episode of TWitWoW when her debut takes place and you and I can hash it out. It's probably not even going to be a long match, but I'll geek out long enough that it'll compensate. So there you go.
All right, well, that's all I have to say.
All right, well, with that said, guys, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW. The the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
Oh, man, I don't know.
You guys
Here's
get
a
the
question. Here's
Okay.
a question. Do you guys agree with us? Are we might be just complaining about nothing here. Do you guys agree with us, or are we needlessly complaining that Ty Dillinger needs to be a baby and Andrade Almas needs to be a heel?
Very, very interesting question. I would really like that. Specifically the latter half of, do you guys think Andrade should be healed? That's something that I would, in particular, really love answer. But yeah, look at this dynamic. Look at Ty Dillinger currently as a heel and Andrade as a babyface. Do you think the role should be reversed like we've been saying, or is it just like, TWitWoW, quit your bitch and it's going to sort itself out? Which, admittedly, would be a little hurtful and I'd cry in a corner, but, First Amendment for the win. But, yeah, guys, get that conversation started down in the comments. Talk to us. Also, be sure to take the conversation over to TWitWoW. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook. If you're looking for a way to introduce yourself, every night for NXT, there is an NXT official thread on TWitWoW where you can give your comments about the show, converse with your fellow wrestling fans. So nice little way to kind of immerse yourself in the water. Be sure to check out the TWitWoW Facebook page, like, share, and comment on the content there. If Facebook isn't your medium of choice, we have a TWitWoW subreddit where you can find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the subreddit can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. That includes NXT. For the best possible TWitWoW experience, I highly recommend, I cannot emphasize enough, follow both of us on Twitter. I am at John_TWitWoW. That is JOHN_TWitWoW. Ashton is at APON404. That's the letter A, Pond, the body of water, POND 404. And now, guys, for the remainder of this week, what you have to look forward to is Money in the Bank preview and predictions, followed by, of course, Money in the Bank live reactions. Going to be a lot of fun between the Money in the Bank ladder match, AJ Styles versus John Cena, and, of course, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. You're going to get our predictions on all that and our reactions of all that when the show occurs. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great rest of the week. And until then, guys, tune in and peace out.